She commands the tempest, she is transformation itself. This is the hidden story of Oya. She is the wind that howls, the storm that shakes the earth, and the voice of transformation. Pia, the Yoruba goddess of tempests, death, and rebirth. Most know her as the bringer of storms, but her hidden story reveals far more than thunder and lightning. Oya is one of the most powerful Orisha in the Yoruba tradition. Revered across Nigeria, Benin, and carried through the Atlantic into the African diaspora. Today we uncover her origins, powers, myths, and the enduring lessons she offers for change and transformation. Born of the Niger River, Oya embodies the wild, unpredictable force of nature. She is often described as a fierce warrior queen, standing alongside Shango, the Orisha of thunder and fire. Her realm is the storm itself, wind, rain, lightning, and the restless power of change. Oya commands the winds of change. She tears down what no longer serves us, yet also clears the path for renewal. She rules over cemeteries and the threshold between life and death, guarding the gates of the ancestors. Her symbols include the machete, the whirlwind, and the color maroon. She is strength, unpredictability, and transformation itself. Oya is not merely an Orisha. She is the very breath of transformation, the storm that clears the skies, the whisper of winds that announce inevitable change. Among the most powerful and enigmatic female deities in the Yoruba pantheon, Oya's presence stretches far beyond West Africa, carried across oceans into traditions like Santeria and Candomblé, where her spirit still dances in thunder and flame. She is the fierce guardian of winds, lightning, and storms, yet her dominion transcends weather. Oya embodies the upheavals of human existence, the sudden shifts, the endings that make way for beginnings, the chaos that births renewal. Her energy refuses passivity. She is movement itself, intolerant of stagnation, demanding transformation with a swiftness as unyielding as the cyclone. Her identity is as layered as the skies she commands. Known by many names, Oya, Oya, Yansa, Yansa, Iyamsa, her essence remains constant, a force that tears through what must fall away. Her Yoruba name, Oya, comes from the phrase she tore, a testament to her power to dismantle structures and systems with winds both destructive and cleansing. Her most cherished praise name, Hayansan, Mother of Nine, binds her to the sacred number 9, symbolizing fertility, transformation, and the cycles of life and death. As patroness of the great Niger River, the Odo Oya, she flows as both destroyer and nurturer, a goddess who commands the waters that erode and reshape, yet also deliver life-giving rain to the fields. To speak of Oya is to speak of motion, change, and the eternal truth that from destruction springs renewal. Few deities embody paradox with such seamless grace as Oya. Her authority extends over two realms that appear to stand in opposition, the bustling marketplace and the silent cemetery. Yet in her wisdom, these spaces are mirrors of the same truth. All things are bound by change. The marketplace, with its cries of barter, its swirl of goods and voices, is the living pulse of transition. Here, fortunes rise and fall, strangers meet and part, and communities weave themselves together in the endless rhythm of exchange. It is a place of uncertainty and opportunity, of sudden loss and unexpected gain. The very terrain where Oya's fierce protection and transformative energy are most needed. In stark contrast, the cemetery rests in stillness, the final threshold where human striving ceases. Yet even here Oya reigns. She is the sentinel of the ancestral gates, the one who ushers souls from one shore of existence to the next. Where others see endings, she perceives continuities, death not as silence but as the beginning of another cycle. By uniting these two domains, the transient chaos of the market and the eternal hush of the grave, Oya reveals her full power. She governs the entire arc of transition, from the daily fluctuations of human society to the ultimate passage of mortality. To invoke Oya is to stand in the eye of change itself, where commerce and death are not contradictions, but twin expressions of life's ceaseless metamorphosis. Oya's story begins deep within the sacred tapestry of the Yoruba cosmos, where the Orishas, divine spirits known as Irun Mole, were sent forth by Olodumare, the supreme creator, to guide, teach, and walk beside humanity. These beings often walk the earth in human form, bridging heaven and earth, embodying lessons through both triumph and struggle. Within this lineage, Oya emerges as a force unlike any other. In some traditions, she is named the daughter of Obatala, the serene god of creation. and Yamaya, the vast and nurturing mother of the seas. In others, she stands as part of a sacred trinity with her sisters, Yamaya, who nurtures life's beginnings, and Oshun, who embodies sweetness and love. Together, they form a cycle of feminine power, where Oya, as the crone, holds the mantle of truth, wisdom, and the uncompromising justice that comes with age and clarity. Yet her essence is not confined to genealogy. Oya is born of weather itself. Storm winds and lightning are her breath, thunder her voice, and sudden change her eternal signature. She is audacity incarnate, the feminine principle of creation and destruction bound together, tearing down so that renewal might take root. To speak of her origins is to speak not only of family or pantheon, but of the primal forces that shape the world itself. Long before the storms carried her name, Oya walked among mortals as flesh and blood. She was not born crowned in the heavens, but rose from the earth itself, living first as a woman of unmatched strength, a queen of the ancient town of Ira, in what is now Kwara State, Nigeria. There her presence was said to command respect like the wind before a storm, invisible yet undeniable. It was in Ira that her story entwined with Shango, the fiery Alafin who would later ascend as the Orisha of thunder. As his wife, Oya's destiny seemed bound to his thunderclap, their union a tempest of fire and wind. Many tales recount that when Shango crossed the threshold from man to God, Oya followed him, her loyalty as fierce as her spirit, rising beside him into the divine. But another story, whispered with greater awe, tells of a different path. In this telling, Oya did not become divine by following in any man's shadow. Instead, after a confrontation that tested her very being, she tore away from every bond that sought to define her. She did not claim a throne, for she needed none. She carved her own path, shaping herself into a goddess as wild and sovereign as the storm she would come to command. Thus, the Queen of Ira became more than mortal. She became the storm's fury, the winds of transformation, the Orisha who answers to no master but the call of change itself. The tale of Oya's beginnings as a mortal queen binds her divine power to the struggles of flesh and blood. Unlike spirits born only of the heavens, her ascent was forged through trial, defiance, and the relentless will to rise beyond limitation. From the dust of Ira she emerged, not merely as royalty but as a woman who carved her destiny with unyielding hands. It is this human path that gives her storms their weight. Her command over the furious winds and the restless dead is not a gift freely given. It is power earned, wrested from the crucible of struggle and self-transformation. She is not distant or untouchable. She is a mirror for every soul that dares to confront its own storms. Oya's journey proclaims a truth both timeless and urgent, that true strength is not inherited but awakened, and that divinity itself can be born from the fire of mortal trials. For those who face hardship today, she stands as a living archetype, a reminder that even in the midst of chaos, the path to transformation is always open. From earth to goddess, from queen to Orisha, Oya's story reveals that profound power arises when human courage dares to meet the divine within. One of the most potent mythological narratives emphasizing Oya's primal sovereignty is the story of the buffalo woman. Oya possesses the power of shape-shifting, allowing her to transform into a powerful water buffalo, an animal associated with fertility and primal female power, whose horns are often likened to the crescent moon. The Pataki recounts how Oya maintained her independence by hiding her buffalo skins whenever she returned to human form. However, a hunter, sometimes identified as Ogun, stole these skins, forcing Oya into a constrained human marriage under the man's power. This violation of her primal freedom establishes a high-stakes conflict. The forced marriage was sustained only on the condition that the man never struck her or her children. When this promise was eventually broken, Oya located her skins, violently reclaimed her identity and primal power, and radically rejected the confinement and violence of the abusive situation, demonstrating a fierce refusal to be owned or constrained. This Pataki, combined with the subsequent myth of Iyansan, forms a theological framework regarding the attainment of sovereignty. Oya's story establishes that ultimate feminine authority is achieved through a combination of radical defiance, the courage to destroy oppressive constraints, the marriage, and disciplined spiritual rigor, the monumental effort required to earn renewal. Her transformative power demands not just reaction, but intentional, structured spiritual work, and a willingness to clear away what is rotten to make way for vibrant new growth. Thursidasi, Iyansan, the mother of nine and spiritual succession. The name Iyansan, mother of nine, is derived from a myth detailing Oya's struggle with infertility. After consulting with a diviner, Babalawo, Oya was advised to perform a substantial sacrifice. Having accomplished this demanding ritual, she was blessed with 9 children. The symbolism of the 9 children is profound. They include her surviving human offspring, but the number 9 also signifies her control over the collective ancestral spirits, Igun, solidifying the link between her fertility, her sacred number, and her ultimate dominion over the realm of the ancestors. The story of Oya is not a tale of quiet submission, but of fierce independence, profound sacrifice, and elemental might, forces that break apart the boundaries of convention and defy the limits of gendered expectation. Now we can enter with her role with Egungun, the role in Egungun rituals and ancestral communication. Ancestor reverence is vital in Yoruba tradition, celebrated through Egungun festivals where collective ancestral spirits are commemorated. These ceremonies, featuring elaborate masquerades that conceal the performer completely, visually represent the spirits of the departed returning periodically to remind the living of the integrated symbiosis between the ancestors, the living, and the unborn. Oya's command of the element of wind is critical to this relationship. Her ability to control the air is not merely a meteorological domain, but is interpreted as her command over the medium of the spirit realm itself. Since she controls the Egun, and the Egungun are understood as mobile, performative displays of departed spirits, the wind acts as the invisible pathway for ancestral communication and movement. This establishes the wind as the physical manifestation of the ancestral veil, allowing her to facilitate direct dialogue between the living and the dead. Now we turn to her symbolic tools of cosmic clearing. Oya's core attributes and symbolic tools underscore her functional role as a force of dynamic purification and transition. The machete or sword, representing her fierce warrior nature, this tool symbolizes her power to cut through obstacles, enforce justice, and ruthlessly clear paths for necessary transformation and new growth. To the fly whisk, Iruke, this symbol of high status and function denotes her control over the air and spirits. The Iruke is used to purify spaces, settle disputes, and cleanse that which is sullied, metaphorically sweeping away stagnation and negative spiritual influences. The water buffalo. This animal, sometimes red in color, is her animal avatar. Her ability to transform into the buffalo symbolizes her primal, untamed female power and fertility, reinforcing her strength and her connection to powerful natural forces. Her story is compelling and often misunderstood. Oya's narrative holds profound resonance for contemporary individuals, embodying a compelling archetype of strength and liberation. Oya is celebrated as a beacon of female strength, resilience, and empowerment. Her mythology inspires individuals to embrace life's inevitable chaos and challenges. She is described as a force of nature, a goddess who does not wait for permission but initiates change. As a catalyst, she is instrumental in liberating individuals and societies from stagnant or oppressive situations, making her an archetype of revolutionary spirit. This warrior queen identity, committed to truth and justice, provides a powerful model for feminine authority and self-sovereignty in the modern era. The fragmentation and occasional obscuration of Oya's comprehensive story are primarily attributed to historical and geopolitical pressures. 1. Oral tradition and regional variance. The Yoruba faith relied heavily on oral tradition before British colonization. This structure naturally led to significant regional differences in patakis, ritual practices, and the roles ascribed to the Orishas, making a singular, universally accepted narrative difficult to ascertain, particularly for outsiders. 2. Colonial and patriarchal filtering. Colonial powers introduced rigid gender binaries in West Africa during the late 19th and early 20th centuries, often sidelining the significant power women held in pre-colonial Yoruba society. This historic filtering often resulted in simplifying powerful female figures like Oya, focusing her narrative primarily on her relationship with Shango, thereby obscuring her independent spiritual authority over the Egungun and the marketplace. 3. Diaspora adaptation and syncretism. The forced migration of enslaved Yoruba people to the New World necessitated syncretism for cultural survival, often masking Orishas behind Catholic saints being linked to Our Lady of Candelaria. This process, while preserving the faith, sometimes streamlined her attributes, prioritizing the most functional or recognizable domains. In Africa, her patronage of the Niger River, Odo Oya, was a major identity pillar. However, for enslaved populations forcibly removed from their homeland, geographic river patronage was rendered irrelevant. Instead, the focus shifted to ancestral continuity and the spiritual welfare of the deceased, which were paramount for cultural and emotional survival. Because Oya was already uniquely positioned as the controller of the Egan, her role as the guardian of the cemetery gates was prioritized and expanded in the diaspora traditions, Santeria, Candomblé. This functional adaptation ensured her necessity in maintaining cultural and familial connections across the vast distance and trauma of slavery. For modern practitioners, the teachings of Oya are centered on harnessing inner strength, embracing the volatile reality of life, and initiating necessary, often radical, transformation. Oya teaches through embracing transformative chaos for renewal. The core mandate of Oya's spiritual teaching is the acceptance that change is not optional, but a law of existence. Followers are encouraged to embrace and welcome transformation, recognizing that upheaval brings both destruction and the potential for new growth and opportunities. This spiritual practice necessitates decisive action and courage to release what is stagnant or obsolete. As the metaphor suggests, Oya does not simply rearrange furniture, she knocks the building to the ground and blows away the floor tiles to facilitate genuine structural renewal. The fierce storms and lightning associated with Oya symbolize purification. This spiritual discipline teaches resilience, reflecting the ancient dictum that the strongest souls are forged in the hottest fires. By inviting Oya's energy, practitioners learn to meet life's storms with a steady heart, trusting that the turmoil serves to cleanse the spirit and make way for a world renewed. For those seeking to follow Oya, her esoteric teachings provide practical guidance for navigating both profound personal loss and spiritual progression. 1. Navigating endings. Oya is the guiding force through loss and major life changes, clarifying that endings are not failures, but passages. She guides seekers through the treacherous terrains of grief and aids in the emotional and spiritual transitions necessary for rebirth. Toward ancestral connection. Practitioners who honor Oya benefit from her unique ability to communicate with and command the Egungun. Invoking her presence is essential for seeking the wisdom, aid, and protection of the ancestors, as she facilitates the connection between the earthly and spiritual. Third, ritual engagement. Specific ritual elements are employed to honor Oya. These include her sacred colors, often brown, burgundy, purple, and sometimes the colors of the rainbow, excluding black. Her metal is copper. Her sacred number is 9, and offerings often involve items in this quantity, such as pennies or copper coins left at the cemetery gates. Direct connection is encouraged during times of elemental activity, as she speaks most clearly to those who listen during the wind, rain, snow, and thunderstorms. Of all Oya's realms, none is more profound or more feared than her dominion over death and the spirits of the departed. Here she reigns as both sentinel and sovereign, standing at the liminal threshold where the living and the dead exchange whispers. Oya is the watchwoman at the gates of the cemetery, her gaze fixed upon the souls who cross its silent threshold. With one foot in the world of the living and the other firmly planted in the world of the dead, she alone holds the power to mark the sacred boundary between mortality and eternity. What sets her apart in the theology of the Orisha is her singular authority over the collective spirits of the dead, the Egungun, or Egan. Among all the Orishas, she is the only woman entrusted with this dominion, a gift of power bestowed upon her by Babalu Aye, the Orisha of disease and healing, in recognition of her fierce compassion and unshakable courage. As mother of the Egungun, Oya is not only the keeper of the ancestors but also the bridge through which their voices resound. She safeguards the continuity of lineage, protecting the living through the wisdom of those who came before. Yet her warrior spirit does not rest even here. It is said that she can summon vast armies of the dead to march at her side, their spectral ranks rising in defense of her children and devotees. To call upon Oya is to invoke the breath of the ancestors, the unseen tide of memory and power that flows through every life. In her hands, death itself becomes not an ending but a force of protection, renewal, and eternal return. Oya stands as a force both elemental and eternal, a goddess who moves seamlessly between worlds. She commands the raw, untamed power of storms while guiding the subtle currents of the spiritual realm. She is the patroness of the vibrant, ever-changing marketplace and the solemn sentinel of the ancestral dead. She is the warrior of independence and the guide of souls, the sovereign of all thresholds, master of every form of transition. Her enduring legacy lies in the lesson she imparts. Transformation, though often disruptive and uncomfortable, is the law of life, the path to renewal. Oya's journey, from human queen to Orisha of wind, fire, and ancestral power, reminds us that true strength is earned through courage, decisive action, and resilience. She shows that embracing the chaos before us is not only necessary, but sacred. For it is within that storm that rebirth occurs. To walk with Oya is to stand in the whirlwind, to release what no longer serves, and to become the very force that shapes your destiny. Her story calls each of us to rise, to act boldly, and to transform our world not despite the storm but through it. Oya teaches us that storms are not the end but the beginning of transformation. Her legacy reminds us that chaos clears the path for renewal, and true power is born from courage and resilience. Like Oya, we too can rise above struggle, claim our strength, and embrace the winds of change. Stand fearless in your own whirlwind and let it carry you toward your destiny. If this message inspires you, honor the path of wisdom, like, share, and join us on this journey of spiritual awakening. If you made it this far, thanks for you watching. Drop a comment on what resonated with you the most from Oya's teaching. Until next time, Oshun Oju Odu signing out.